water. I'll be satisfied. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Krista from Plant Lux. This is Whiskey, my dog. He's a good boy. You're a good boy. Yes, you are. And we are here to talk to you today about a simple, easy watering routine. Today I'm just gonna go through my watering regimen and what I do, and I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks of how I do it to see maybe if it will help you guys, streamline your watering schedule and maybe technique. So that's what we're gonna do today. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button to be informed of when I post new videos, and hit that thumbs up if you like this video. All right? Thanks, guys. Let's get right into it. Yeah, baby, let's get right into it. Let's do that, baby princess.
He likes being...
I love you. I love you, baby princess. I love the baby.
He likes being on video.
Hey guys, are you a little baby princess? Are you a movie star now? Huh? Are you a movie star, you crazy nut? Yeah. Alright. So,
He's gonna follow you all over the house now.
Whiskey, what are you doing? Are you gonna help me water the plants? Yeah. Okay. So I have pre-filled all of these watering vessels because for me, the very first part of watering that sort of makes it more enjoyable for someone like me who has tons of plants is to be locked and loaded, so to speak, come prepared. So I have filled up various sizes of watering containers. These are the larger ones, obviously. These are 2-gallon jugs. I have it on a rolly cart because I'm mobile. I've got some smaller vessels here with a teeny tiny pour spot for those hard to reach places. And another one here that's a slow pouring one with a tiny spout also. And then pickle jars and whatever kind of jars you have, save them. Put them on a cart, use them to walk around your house and water your plants with. It saves you having to keep going back to the sink, which is kind of nice, okay? It makes the watering routine go a lot more quickly. Also, I have scissors for, when you're watering, you notice things like that are... Hey, Tressa! What are you stopping? What are you doing, you nut job? Okay. So I usually have some scissors along with me in order to cut, dead leaves and things like that as I go. And then I have like a bag to put all the castings in. Yeah. And then I also have Neem Oil spray that I've pre-made. I usually use the extract and then mix it with water and soap. All right, so let's get right into it. This is it. This is what I do. By the way, I also have other vessels, the big ones that I've filled with water, ready and sitting by the sink when I run out. Uh-oh. She's gonna get you, Whiskey. Here. Ooh, you better watch out, big boy.
This is chaos.
Chaos, like a circus in here. As I was saying, I pre-filled some larger vessels that are sitting and hanging out by the sink, and then when I run out, I just go swap them out. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'm gonna start right here. And the first thing I do before I water it is I check the soil to make sure that it's dry, and I use my finger. So I just stick my finger right in the soil, and I would say about up to your knuckle, if it's dry, that means you need to water it. So let's do it. Oh, kind of a note to you, if you have one of these watering containers, I unscrewed the cap because what I found was there was like a white with like the spray, the sprinkly, what do you call that? Like this, but it was like one you could take off. It had like all the holes in it. Anyway, super scientific here. So I took it off because it kept dripping and it was just kind of a pain when I would water and have to like clean up. Oh, I also have a towel for wipe ups too for when I'm watering because sometimes water does get everywhere. I'm finding that this Monstera needs to be watered about once every 2 weeks or once every 10 days. It does suck up a lot of moisture. I have it set back a few good feet from a south-facing window, so it does tend to use up quite a bit of water. And it's a pretty sizable plant. Usually how you water is you water until you see water coming out the bottom. That's the goal. And you want to make sure that you're covering the whole entire base of the plant, because you want to make sure that you're getting, you know, all over the surface area to make sure all those roots are getting the water that they need. All right, the water started coming out the bottom, so I'm good to go there. I'm going to come over here to this plant. And this one right here is an angel wing begonia. These tend to demand quite a bit more water. One of the things I generally do when I'm watering also is I check for pests. I check on the undersides of the leaves. I've already checked that monstera recently, so that one was good. I didn't need to check that one, but I haven't really checked this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a little inspection. And then I'll turn the plant also while I'm watering, because, you know, you want to make sure that you're turning your plants quite often so that it gets full sun exposure. Looks good. I don't see any pest pressures. Whiskey. Stop it. Whiskey, stop munching your paw, goofball. Alright. It's kind of handy when you got this cart here. It makes life a lot easier. Now, I didn't have to stick my finger in the soil on this one because I felt how light the pot was, so I knew that it had actually dried out too much. So. I can hear the water coming out the bottom. We're good to go.
Does that even have a saucer? That doesn't have a saucer.
No, it's a pot inside a pot.
Oh.
See, look.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So this plant, same thing. It's an angel wing. I'm inspecting it for pests, looking closely at the leaves, checking the soil. It could use some water. Here we go. Sitting in a clear container so I can see when the water comes up, and it's good. We watered it correctly. All right. Let's do this table back here real quick. So check this. I'm gonna look for pests, make sure there's no pressures, and take out leaves like this that are dead if you don't need them. This is a Philodendron Micans, and these like to dry out, so I try not to, you know, water them unless they are bone dry. And I can tell this one's still pretty good, so I don't even need to water this one. Is a Hoya publicalis, and right away I can tell, even just by looking at the soil, that this is bone dry. I should not have let it go this long. They do like to dry out, but this is beyond, this is the place where you're like, okay, I let it go too long. And how I can tell is that I lost a leaf. Leaf shed is normal, okay? But I know based on how the soil looks and how the leaves feel, they're very flexible and they're sort of puckery. So I waited a little too long for this guy. And you can see how dry it is. It's so dry that it's not even in the pot. It's bone dry. So this guy needs a good soaking. Sometimes when a situation like this arises, I literally stick it in a tub of water and just let it soak in all the water that way. But I'm in kind of a hurry today, so we're not doing it that way. We're just gonna give it a good soak. more than I think it needs. And then what I'll do is I'll come back later and I'll check the pot to make sure that it's not sitting in water for too long if I put too much water in here. So I'm gonna come back and wanna check this one later. But for now, it's okay. I just gave it a good drink and I checked it for pests. And I'm getting rid of all this old stuff, because if you leave old leaves and stuff like that in there, you just risk introducing disease from rot. So that's why, you know, it's important for you to pick your leaves out and really just sort of take care of your plant, you know, get rid of all the dead stuff.
Will you turn the light off? I think it was better without the light.
Okay, this is a Hoya Kentiana. Same thing. They like to dry out. I can tell this one is dried out. Checking for pests. Getting rid of all of the detritus or detritus, however you say that. The garbage leaves. And then giving it a good soak. Plant, because I let it get too dry, I'm going to overwater it a little bit. Come back later. And then I'll pull this out of the pot because there's 2 pots in here. Okay, it's a nursery pot inside of a decorative pot. I'll come back and make sure there's no water just waiting in there lingering. Because they do not like to be in wet feet. All right, and then over here, I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna go this way. This is my beloved Rojo Congo Philodendron, and it's really doing well over here. It really likes this corner. I'm really happy about that. There are lots of growth points. In a previous video, I propagated this small section right here, and since then it's shot out a new growth point. That means that it successfully has propagated. This is a brand new growth point, and this is part of that as well. It hasn't unfurled yet, but it looks like this is going to be a successful propagation. It looks like I have a new leaf coming in on the base. Overall, plant health is good. The only problem with this plant is it has some of this fungus. These I just keep treating them and hoping for the best, really. So what I do is I just come in with my neem oil, give it a good shake, and then I just spray the undersides of the leaves. Trying to control. I don't want to cut it back. You know, I mean, you could cut all the leaves off and start over again, but I love this plant so much. It's beautiful. I keep it over here in the corner away from the other plants. I don't have it near a humidifier. You want to get the base pretty good too. So front sides of leaves and also undersides of leaves. Takes a minute, but it's worth it for this plant to me. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of getting rid of these rust spots, they're called, immediately when you see them. You can't really get rid of them, but you can control them. And how I've done it is through the use of neem oil. So if you have one of these plants and you have rust spots, quarantine it away from your other plants. Don't have it near a humidifier because spores travel through the air. And just keep it back and cut off the ones that are really infected. In fact, you should cut them all off, but I just can't pull myself to do that. So I'm not. I'm just gonna leave it as is and keep it away from, big time, keep it away from your other philodendrons because your other philodendrons will get the rust spots. Because it's a fungus. And that's about it. And then I'll have to come through and I'll have to wipe up the floor because now the floor has it on it. I'll do that in a second. But I'm just going to come in with some water and give it a good soak. And again, you want to water it until the water comes out the bottom. We're going to give that some time to drain down through, but I'm pretty sure generally I water it about that much. So it'll come through the bottom. And then if it doesn't, what happens with my big plants, if I don't see the water coming out through the bottom, I'll have to go back and give them some more water until I see it coming out the bottom. Just be careful when you do that, because sometimes when you do that and they're in trays like this, it can spill onto your floor. So you definitely want to watch your plants. Okay. So with the Fiddly Fig, I just want to talk just for a couple of minutes about the Fiddly Fig. Now, this has shot out quite a bit of new growth since I put it in my south-facing window, but I pulled it back because it was getting a little bit too much sun, which is, it'll bleach the leaves a little bit. But so the new growth, this is all new growth at the very, very tops. And sometimes you'll see this red speckly stuff. Okay, that is not a disease. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I'll put it on the screen, but that's completely normal. The red speckling is normal. It will go away with time. I think it's because it got a little bit too much sun, but I'll put the technical term on the screen. Anyway, I checked these leaves. I did see some spider mites on one of the sections of this, so I'm going to make sure I check it real good. And I'll probably just give it a light misting of the neem oil just as a preventative. Because generally when it comes to spider mites, it takes at least, I would say, 3 or 4 treatment cycles to really eliminate the spider mites. So checking it for spider mites, I don't see any really. I'm pretty sure I got them the first time, but I just need to check and make sure just in case I missed. Ideally, I'd have a flashlight and a some kind of, what do you call those things?
Magnifying glass.
Magnifying glass. God, I'm getting old.
I was hoping you'd figure it out.
And then I'm just gonna give it a good soak until the water comes out the bottom. Again, you're gonna want to go all the way around the base. Ideally, you want to turn your plant so it gets sun on the other side. I'm out of water. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. So guys, we're 5 minutes into the future and I have filled my watering cans. And I have grabbed this super cool, easy watering device, which is called a bucket, for these big giant plants. Here we go. Some of you might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of water. But here's what you don't know. This plant's really dry. Again, I've got that this thing here on the bottom, so I can see if it starts to fill up. And what I do is I'll stick a towel down in there and I'll soak up all the water, so that way it doesn't spill all over my floor. All right, this guy right here, totally bone dry. Don't even need to check the soil, but again, you should stick your finger in there. I already know it is though by experience. So I'm just gonna come in with some water here. Give this guy a nice good drink. I think I'm gonna do a future video on this one. I'm gonna put it up on a pole because it's leaning. It's getting really heavy and it's getting big and tall, and I'm gonna put it in a big pot and I'm gonna put it on a stake. And we're just gonna grow this bed boy into one of those giant monsters that I grew over there. That's the plan. All right, so this one, I've looked it up and down. This one's really super easy to check for pests. So there's really nothing to do here other than look at it. It's good to go. All right. This Hoya back here in the corner, just by the leaves, you can tell when a Hoya needs water, the leaves get soft and flexible, and it starts to look droopy and puckery. I can tell that this is in desperate need of a water. So normally what I would do with this plant is I would pick it right up and put it in the shower. So we're gonna come back and grab that one and put it in the shower in a minute.
You gonna do that? Those guys on the floor there?
Yeah, so these guys I recently just watered. This is a ficus, what's it called?
Benjamin.
Yeah, but it's the white
Variegated.
kind. A variegated ficus. I think it's a Benjamina. I know for sure this is a Ficus Benjamina. This is the yellow and green variety. And this one is a ficus. I can't remember. I think it's a Benjamina, but it's the white variegated variety. I don't know. I'll put it on the screen. Anyway, I bought this plant, no joke. It was literally super tiny, and it's gotten very big. It's been all over my house. It was in a north-facing window, and now I put it in a south-facing window to give it more light. You know, these guys turn into 15-foot, 20-foot trees if you let them grow. So they're well on their way, but I just kind of wanted to watch them grow, so I bought them small. I don't know what I'm going to do when they get big. Hopefully by then I'll have a plant shop or something. Anyway, with these guys, I did just water these, so I'm not going to water them. You do want to let these get at least partially dried out. They like to let the soil dry out. If you overwater them, you'll start seeing the leaves drop. If you underwater them, you'll see the leaves drop. So it's kind of just knowing when to water it. Well, I guess you have to be plant omniscient. No, just kidding. You just need to know that you can't let the soil get completely dry. So I've had a lot of luck with mine. I've had this for a year now, and this one also for a year, and it's grown at least 6 inches or more. So, and I've had minimal leaf drop. The only leaf drop I've experienced is through my fault by neglect and not keeping up on the watering. So that's why I moved them up here, so they would be in my face, so I could keep better tabs on them. All right, so I'm not gonna water those. This is a propagation I took from my red Emerald Philodendron. No need to water this guy. He's in water already. I'm gonna stake this guy up in a video coming soon. Be on standby for that. I have 2 propagations that I'm gonna make another pulled red Emerald Philodendron. That's what this is. And I know it's doing well in the watering container because it has new growth points here and here, and a couple in different places on the plant. I still look at it though while I'm here to make sure and inspect, but there's no pests. In the back corner, there is a snake plant, a Sansevieria, and directly in front of me is a smaller plant called a Maranta. So I can see that this is going to be using one of my other watering containers. A smaller one with, you know, a small is the way to go. It doesn't take much water for this one because it will come out the bottom soon, very quickly. And then because I don't want to take plants out, I'm just going to stick this back here like so. Give this guy a good drink. I don't really feel like taking him out of there, so that's that. And then right directly in front of me, we have a Calathea Lucan blah 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 something. What's it called?
I don't know.
A Lucan Micans something something. Anyway, I'll put it on the screen. This is like the variegated kind. And this is my bad. I have been a bad parrot mommy. I have let this get too dry. You cannot let your Calathea dry too far out. And yeah, I should not have let it get so dry. Snip off the dead parts there, and then make sure you give it a good soak because this bad boy's bone dry. Bad plant mommy. All right, and then right here in front of me we have an Aglaonema. What kind is this called?
Yeah. It's either the ruby something or the Fivovian.
Yeah, Fivovian. Yeah, and I'm gonna cut this leaf off because it's ugly and it's bothering me. So, looks pretty good. Honestly, what I'm probably gonna end up doing at some point is propagating this and combining this one and this one in the same pot. It's probably what I'm gonna do. This one, same thing. Soil is bone dry. Just give it a good soak. Center is a Hoya Carnosa compacta. Wow, I'm so smart. Let's do that again. Here I'm going to give a good soak to. This is a golden pothos. And then another Calathea is over here. I'm just going to scoop that some water. Here's a, ooh, look at that. Another one, this is a propagation. Okay, I can see just from where I'm at that there's a problem with this one. So this one's gonna go in here for treatment in the sink. I just saw spider mites. I didn't even have to look very closely, but that's gonna need to get away from my collector item plants. All right, spider mites get around quick. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some more water in this guy right here, because I'm gonna use this watering container a little bit more. Okay. This is a Manju pothos, and I can tell based on the leaves they're wilting. Very pretty plant, but when it's not watered, it really goes south really quickly. So it's in a south-facing window. It's drying out more quickly than I can keep up with it. And I want to make sure I treat this one in the shower also, because I just saw that it has some spider mites on it. And if it's not spider mites, it's regular spiders. I have noticed I have some of those in my house. So I'm going to want to treat this one in the shower, wash it off, and treat it with neem oil. So guys, if you notice that one of your plants has spider mites, you're not going to want to have your plants touching because it's easily spread. This one needs to be placed, okay, just really quick note on lighting. Now I'm looking at this a little closely. This needs to be placed in a different window. It's getting too much sun, and as a result, the leaves are not looking so pretty. It needs more shade, so I'm gonna have to stick it in the back, farther away from the window, and put a different plant there, because this is getting too much sun. And that's probably honestly why it has, that I just noticed spider mites, because it probably got too dry and then it was susceptible to pests. So there you go. So I'm gonna put that in the shower. And this one is my my Thai constellation. It's gotten quite large. I'm getting a new leaf here. It just sprouted today. So it's really looking beautiful. This is what happens when you miss a watering. It's pretty sad, but it's too late. This leaf is probably going to die. The rest of the leaves are okay though, so I'm lucky. This is damaged. This came damaged, and it hasn't really grown. The damage is contained, so I leave that alone. I check it for spider mites. I check it for pest pressures. I had to water it when I saw that this was happening. I knew I had missed a watering, so yeah. Okay. All right, and then behind me, sort of covered up, I have this really long, beautiful Calathea repens. Calathea, I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. You know, this guy's probably ready to come out of this window because it's just drying out too fast, but I kind of like it here, so I'm leaving it. I just make sure that I overwater it and let the water stay in the pot for my watering neglect. That way it can soak up what it needs. These plants don't seem to mind that. So we've watered the Monstera deliciosas. These were propagations. And as I was saying with Monstera, they do like to get dry, but they don't like to dry completely out to the point where you have leaf death. Okay, so it's a really good idea to have them on a watering schedule. Getting a water meter is recommended if you not really sure how much to water your plants. I'm used to watering these plants every like 7 to 10 days, but I did miss a watering recently, so they were bone dry. It didn't negatively affect my plant, thank goodness, but you know, it's just something to keep in mind. Having a watering schedule is a good idea. You can go room by room, which is what I do, but also keep in mind that it should be a weekly thing that you're doing. And Hoya is about every 10 to 14 days. Again, it depends on what lighting situation you have them in. If it's in bright south-facing window, or if it's in, you know, like a north window, you have to take lighting into consideration when you're watering your plants. The more light you have, the more water you'll use. So keep that in mind. Yeah, so I watered these guys over here. Now we're going to look at this big shelf, and I'm going to start at the bottom right away because I can see that this poor plant has suffered from neglect. This is not a plant that likes to dry out, and I totally missed the watering. So I'm not going to chop it up into make propagations out of it yet, but this is the kind of situation where I probably would chop it up and make propagations. I'm not going to do that today. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to water it. I'm going to let it go for a couple of, I'm going to water it and then I'm going to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to keep up on my watering routine. I'm going to remove these dead leaves. And then before I propagate, I'm just going to let it get back to health. Generally speaking, when you're propagating a plant, you don't want to do it when it's in this kind of condition. You want to let it get back to health before you start hacking away at it. So cutting off the dead stuff is not going to hurt. I'm going to do that first. Get all the dead stuff out of the way. Wow, that's all dead. Put it back in the spot that it was because it's happy. I mean, if I was watering it, it would be happy there. Put it in the same spot. Don't move it unless it's like diseased. Okay. So what I'm going to do, take my watering container and stick it back in the pot so it catches all the water. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm really going to give it a good soak. And that's it. I didn't see any pests when I was working on it. I'm going to throw away my leaf trash. On to the next plant. Okay. Up top here, I've already tended to these guys. These are some of my Monstera addisonii propagations. They're really doing well. I'm going to be honest with you. I do, because they're in such a small pot for such a big plant, and the roots are starting to peak at the bottom, this plant does require watering more often than some of my other addisonii. So I made sure I watered those right away because I have my mind on them because I don't want them to, to get wilty and die, because once the Monstera addisonii leaf goes, it's pretty much going to be dead. Like, this is an example. I let this one go a little bit too long, and this is what happens when you underwater. Your leaf is going to not look pretty, or it will completely die. And I already cut off the other leaves that were dead. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is what underwatering looks like. Your tips, okay, and your sides. This is a good example right here. Your plant is trying to survive. So that's why your leaves start to drop. So okay. Back in here, we have a watermelon Pepperoni propagation. Because this is in such a tiny container, it does require quite a bit of water. I mean frequency of watering, not amount. It's the frequency I'm talking about here. So something to keep in mind. This right here, normally I would just stick this one in the shower, but I don't think I'm going to do that today. Again, I'm checking my Hoya. I'm keeping it in the light. I'm taking out any dead leaves that I see, because remember, where there's dead stuff, there could be pests or disease. So you want to make sure you're cleaning it out. It's kind of like weeding in a way. That's it. I'm checking it over. It looks great. I can tell it needs a repot based on the roots on the bottom. I can tell it's bone dry. Wait a second. I just saw some spider mites. I see some webbing. I am going to stick this one in the shower. That one needs to be treated with Neem Oil also. So it's really good to check your plants. Watering is the perfect time. Check for pests. Spider mites are super common. Okay. I've already watered this guy and this guy. We're good. So this whole side is good. Now I need a towel to clean that up. My Hoya retusa is doing smashingly. I haven't fertilized it yet, Taylor. I don't know how yours is doing.
I'm good.
Who's gonna win? Alright, I checked this guy. He needs a little bit of water, but I need to take a fiver. I need to clean up the water underneath my feet, and I need to refill my watering containers. It's satisfying. It's oddly satisfying. This is your favorite part, guys. Water. Oddly satisfying. Okay, so let's take our super awesome cool watering can, because let's face it, it's all about the experience. And let's check this guy up here. He is a water hog, so I already know he's going to be bone dry. Why is he a water hog? Because he shoots out so much growth all the time. So we're just going to, okay, did I learn my lesson the first time? There, catching the water that drips out. Normally I'd stick this guy in the shower, but He's pest free, looking pretty darn good, looking pretty nice. But you do want to give this guy a good soak. Not a bad technique if you think about it. All right, he's good to go, I think. If I wanted to give him a little bit more, I could. Why? Because sometimes when you miss waterings, you really do need to give it a good soak and let it run through. That's what we just did. Looks great. Okay. Stick that bad boy back up there. And I'm going to give this baby a drink over here. Because he's not really desperate for water, but with my Calatheas, I don't know. Me and Calathea, we're sort of on bad terms. Keep getting spider mites in my Calathea, and they are always underwater. So, all right, this down here is by the way, this is a Calathea Orbifolia. If you are new to Calathea, this is one of the easier ones. And if I didn't say so before, this is a Repens. Shoot, why am I drawing a blank?
Polonia.
Oh yeah, Polonia Repens. Love this guy. Oh, so easy to propagate, shoots out tons of new growth, easy plant to take care of. If you miss the watering, it's not going to drop leaves really crazily or anything. It's pretty resilient, drought tolerant kind of plant. Down here, if I didn't mention this is a Hoya retusa. Down here is a Philodendron Rio, also called Philodendron Silver Stripe, and checking it for spider mites. Actually, I'm going to pull it out because I need to see it a little bit better than that. And I need the light. So I use natural light when I'm doing this. I do this during the day because I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. It's much easier if you hold your plant up to the light to catch webbing. And I can see it has some webbing, so I'm going to have to treat the bottom of this. So if you look, I don't know if you can see this or not, but the webbing is very fine.
I don't think that's webbing, that's dog hair. Oh, like that? Yeah, I see it.
So if you see some dead stuff, you're going to want to pull that out. I'm going to put this in my kitchen sink and wash it off, give it a good soak, then treat it with neem oil to get rid of the spider mites. Again, it's pretty common. Really when you have plants, don't get hard on yourself if you have, spider mites or any other bugs. It's part of plant care, honestly. Don't look at it in a negative way. Just look at it as, hey, it's maintenance. Your job, especially when you have so many plants, or even if you just have, a good amount, is to help in the pest prevention. It's all about pest management. An infestation is where you have to be really concerned. And in that case, you would put your plant outside and really do some serious work. But you're going to see spider mites and other bugs on your plants. It's part of plant parenthood. So don't get too concerned if you see it. Does it tick me off and I get really upset about it? Yeah, sure, of course, because it's your babies and you don't want your babies to have diseases, but you just treat them and then that's it. Move on, Look how healthy this plant looks. You can't tell there's anything wrong with it, It's really doing well, actually. It's thriving. And the reason for that is I look for spider mites and when I see them, I treat it with neem oil. There you go, you're done, okay? But, with a vining plant like this with lots of small leaves, you're going to want to shower it off in the sink or in your tub. You want to make sure you're spraying it, okay? It does help loosen it up. Since all of these plants I saw have spider mites, it's not going to matter if I put them on the same cart to treat them. So I'm just loading up my cart with the ones I thought had spider mites. And that's it, really. Just got 2 more plants to do down here. So I'm going to check this guy in the light, checking for pests. This is one of my new. Oh, what you didn't see me do off camera is I washed my hands so I don't spread spider mites everywhere. Looks good. There are no pest pressures on this plant at all. Looks good. Just going to water it, stick it back in its home. And then last but not least, this guy I can already tell is super dry. Just checking for pests. Okay, looks Looks good. Believe it or not, it doesn't have any, which is a good sign. You can tell it's severely underwater though by virtue of how many leaves are dead. It happens. More water than that. Bless you.
Thank you.
We're just gonna go and water until it comes out the bottom. Looks good. Started coming out the bottom. I'm gonna let that guy dry up over here. All right, guys, and you know, a part of this wonderful journey of plant care is, you know, not only is it rewarding to water your plants and take care of them, but it also, you know, it's I don't know, it puts you, I think, in a really good energy because you're spending time with your plants, and it's even though it's like a chore, it's still very much rewarding and healing. It's a good time for you to commune, you know, with nature indoors. And during the winter months, that's something that's really important for, you know, quality of mood. So if you don't have too many plants, don't be afraid to get more, because just because you have more plants and you have more plant care doesn't mean that you won't reap the benefits of, you know, being a plant parent who can bring the outdoors inside and really benefit from, you know, your energy and your overall mood. It really does something for the soul. So with that said, hey, thank you for joining me today on this plant care video. Thank you for joining me today in this plant care video. I certainly had fun showing you how I take care of my plants. Just to recap, I generally recommend having a bucket on hand of some kind, a towel, some watering vessels of different sizes, a cart, makes easy to put plants on or watering containers on. I take a trash bag for my trash, leaf trash, because as we clean, we tend to, you know, snip off old dying leaves or pick them out of the pot, and we have to have some place to throw them. Also, neem oil, in case you see any pest pressures. I recommend neem oil. Horticulture oil is another option, but I feel it's more harsh, and I haven't had the best experiences with horticulture oil, so I tend to try to just use the neem oil. I feel like it's the lightest preventative that there is outside of, say, alcohol and water. I find that neem is just better all the way around, and it makes your leaves look really super shiny, and it doesn't harm your plant. Okay, so if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, please subscribe. If you aren't new here and haven't subscribed, I could really use your support, and I appreciate that if you would subscribe. Subscribing is free. All you have to do is have a valid email, and anyone can subscribe. Okay? So thanks guys for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.